The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 2, Section 3, Practical Vedanta, Part 4. Lecture delivered in London, 18 November 1896. We have been dealing more with the universal so far. This morning, I shall try to place before you the Vedantic ideas of the relation of the particular to the universal. As we have seen in the dualistic form of the Vedic doctrine, the earlier forms, there was a clearly defined particular and limited soul for every being. There have been a great many theories about this particular soul in each individual. But the main discussion was between the ancient Vedist and ancient Buddhist. The former believing in the individual soul as a complete in itself and later denying in toto the existence of such an individual soul. As I told you the other day, if it is pretty much the same discussion you have in Europe as to substance and quality, one set holding that behind qualities in here and the other denying the existence of such a substance has been unnecessary, for the qualities may live by themselves. The most ancient theory of soul, of course, is based upon the argument of self identity. I am I. That the I of yesterday is the I of today, and the I of today will be the I of tomorrow. That in spite of all the changes that are happening into the body, I yet believe that I am the same I. This seems to have been the this seems this seems to have been the central argument with those who believe in the limited and yet perfectly complete individual soul. On the other hand, the ancient Buddhists denied the necessity of such an assumption. They brought forward the argument that all that we know and all that we possibly can know are simply these changes. The posting of an unchangeable and unchanging substance is simply superfluous, and even if there were any such unchangeable thing, we could never understand it, nor should we ever be able to recognize it in any sense of words. The same discussion you will find at the present time going on in Europe between the religionist and the idealist on the one side, and the modern positivist and agnostics on the other. One said believing there is something which does not change, of whom the latest representative is your Herbert Spencer, that we catch a glimpse of something which is unchangeable, and the other is represented by the modern comist and modern agnostic. Those of you who were interested a few years ago in the discussion between Herbert Spencer and Frederick Harrison might have noticed that it was the same difficulty. The one party stands for the substance behind the changeful, and the other party denies the necessity for such an assumption. One party says we cannot conceive of changes without conceiving of something which does not change, and the other party brings out the argument that this is superfluous. We can only conceive of something which is changing, and as to the unchanging, we can neither know, feel, nor sense it. In India, this great question did not find its solution in very ancient times, because we have seen that the assumption of the substance which is behind the qualities and which is not the qualities can never be substantiated, nor even the argument from self identity, from memory, that I am the I of yesterday because I remember it, and therefore I have been a continuous something, cannot be substantiated. The other quibble that is generally put forward is a mere delusion of words. For instance, a man may take a long series of such sentences as I do, I go, I dream, I sleep, I move, and here you will find it claim that the doing, going, dreaming, etc. have been changing, but what remained constant was the I. As such, they conclude that the I is something which is constant and an individual in itself. But all these changes belong to the body. This, though apparently very conceiving and clear, is based upon the mere play of words. The I and the doing, going, and dreaming may be separate in black and white, but no one can separate them in his mind. When I eat, I think of myself as eating. I am identified with eating. When I run, I and the running are not two separate things. Thus, the argument from the personal identity does not seem the argument from personal identity does not seem to be very strong. The other argument from memory is also weak. If the identity of my being is represented by my memory, many things which I have forgotten are lost from that identity. And we know that people under certain conditions forget their whole past. In many cases of lunacy, a man will think of himself as made of glass or has been an animal. If the existence of that animal depends on memory, he has become glass, which not being the case, we cannot make the identity of the life or of the self depend on such a filmy substance as memory. Thus, we see that the soul has a limited yet complete and continuing identity and cannot be established as separate from the qualities. We cannot establish a narrowed down, limited existence to which is attached a bunch of qualities. On the other hand, the argument of the ancient Buddhist seems to be stronger that we do not know and cannot know anything that is beyond the bunch of qualities. According to them, the soul consists of a bundle of qualities called sensation and feelings. A mass of such is what is called the soul, and this mass is continuously changing. The Advaitist theory of soul reconciling both these positions. The position of the Advaitis is that it is true that we cannot think of the substance as separate from the qualities. We cannot think of change and not change at the same time. It would be impossible. But the very thing which is the substance is the quality. Substance and the quality are not two things. It is unchangeable, that is, appearing as changeable. The unchangeable substance of the universe is not something separate from it. The noumenon is not something different from the phenomena, but it is the very noumenon which has become the phenomenon. There is a soul which is unchanging, and what is called feeling and perception, nay, even the body, are the very soul. Seen from another point of view, we have got into the habit of thinking that we have bodies and souls and so forth, but really speaking, there is only one. When I think of myself as a body, I am only body. It is meaningless to say that I am something else, and when I think of myself as a soul, the body vanishes and the perception of the body does not remain. None can get the perception of the self without his perception of the body having vanished. None can get perception of the substance without his perception of the qualities having vanished. The ancient illustration of Advaita of the rope being taken for a snake may elucidate the point a little more. When a man mistakes the rope for a snake, the rope has vanished, and when he takes it for the rope, the snake has vanished, and the rope only remains. The ideas of dual or tribal existence come from reasoning on insufficient data, and we read them in books or hear them about them until we come under the delusion that we really have a dual perception of soul and the body. But such perception never really exists. The perception is either of the body or of the soul. It requires no argument to prove it. You can verify it in your own minds. Try to think of yourself as a soul, as a disembodied something. You will find it to be almost impossible, and those few who are able to do so will find that at the time when they realize themselves as a soul, they have no idea of the body. You have heard of, or perhaps have seen person who on particular occasion had been in a peculiar state of mind brought about by deep meditation, self-hypnosis, hysterian or drug. From their experience, you may gather that when they were perceiving the internal form or internal something, the external had vanished for them. This shows that whatever exists in one, that one is appearing in the various form, and all these various form give rise to the relation of cause and effect. The relation of cause and effect is one of evolution. The one becomes the other, and so on. Sometimes the cause vanishes, as it were, and in its place leaves the effect. If the soul is the cause of the body, the soul, as it were, vanishes for the time being, and the body remains. And when the body vanishes, the soul remains. This theory fits the argument of the Buddhist at that were leveled against the assumption of the dualism of body and soul. By denying the duality and showing that the substance and the qualities are one and the same thing appearing in various forms, we have seen also that this idea of unchangeable can be established only as regard the whole, but never as regard the part. The very idea of part comes from the idea of change or motion. Everything that is limited we can understand and know because it is unchangeable, and the whole must be changeable because it is changeable, and also it is unchangeable because there is no other thing beside it in relation to which change would be possible. Change is always in regard to something which does not change or which changes relatively less. According to Advait, therefore, the idea of the soul as universal, unchangeable, and immortal can be demonstrated as far as possible. The difficulty would be as regard the particular. The what shall we do with the old dualistic theory which have such a hold upon us, and which we have all to pass through? This belief in limited little individual souls. We have seen that we are immortal with the regard to the world, but the difficulty is we desire so much to be immortal as part of the whole. We have seen that we are infinite, and that is our real individuality, but we want to so much to make this little soul individual. What becomes of them when we find in our everyday experience that this little soul are individuals with only this reservation that they are continuously growing individuals? They are the same yet not the same. The I of yesterday is the I of today, and yet not so. It is changed sometimes. Now, by getting rid of the dualistic conception that in the midst of all these changes, there is something that does not change, and takes the most modern of conception, that of evolution, we find that the I is the continuously changing, expanding entity. If it be true that man is the evolution of the mollusk individual is the same of the man, only it has to become expanded a great deal. From mollusk to man, it has been a continuous expansion towards infinity. Therefore, the limited soul can be styled an individual which is continuously expanding towards the infinite individual. Perfect individuality will only be reached when it has reached the infinite. But on this side of the infinite, it is continuously changing, growing personality. One of the remarkable features of the Advaiti system of Vedanta is to harmonize the preceding system. In many cases, it helped the philosophy very much. In some cases, it hurt it. Our ancient philosophers knew what you call the theory of evolution, that growth is gradual, step by step, and the recognition of this lead them to harmonize all the preceding systems. Thus, not one of these preceding ideas was rejected. The fault of the Buddhistic faith was that it had neither the faculty nor the perception of this continual, expansive growth. For this reason is never even made an attempt to harmonize itself with the pre existing steps towards the idea. They were rejected as useless and harmful. These tendencies in religion is most harmful. A man gets a new and better ideas and then he looks back on those he has given up and forthwith decides they were mischievous and unnecessary. He never thinks that, however crude they may appear from his present point of view, they were very useful to him, that they were necessary for him to reach his present state, and that every one of us has to grow in a similar fashion, living first on crude ideas, taking benefit from them, and them then arriving at the highest standard. With the oldest theories, therefore, the Advaita is friendly. Dualism and all systems that had preceded it are accepted by Advait, not in a patronizing way, but with the conviction that they are true manifestation of the same truth, and they that they all lead to the same conclusion as the Advait has reached. With blessing and not with cruising should be preserved all these various steps through which humanity has to pass. Therefore, all these dualistic systems have never been rejected or thrown out, but have been kept intact in the Vedanta, and the dualistic conception of any individual soul, limited and complete in itself, finds its place in the Vedanta. According to the dualism, man dies and goes to other worlds, and so forth. And these ideas are kept in the Vedanta in their entirely. For with the recognition of the growth in the Vedantist system, these theories are given their proper place by admitting that they represent only a partial view of the truth. From the dualistic standpoint, this universal or universe can only be looked upon as a creation of matter or force, can only be looked upon as a play of certain will. That will again can only be looked upon as separate from the universe. Thus, a man from such a standpoint has to see himself as composed of the dual nature, body and soul itself. And this soul, though limited, is individually complete in itself. Such a man's idea of immorality and of the future life would necessarily accord with his idea of soul. These phases have been kept in the Vedanta, and it is therefore necessary for me to present to you a few of the popular ideas of dualism. According to these theories, we have a body, of course, and behind the body there is what they call a fine body. This fine body is also made of matter, only very fine. It is a receptacle of all our karmas, of all our actions and impressions, which are ready to spring up into the visible forms. Every thoughts that we think, every deeds that we do, after a certain time become fine, goes into seed form, so to speak, and lives in the fine body in a potential form. And after a time, it merges again and bears its results. This results condition the life of man. Thus, he mounts his own life. Man is not bound by any other laws excepting those which he makes for himself. Our thoughts, our words, and deeds are the threads of the net which we throw round ourselves for good or for evil. Once we set in motion a certain power, we have to take the full consequence of it. This is the law of karma. Behind the subtle body lives Shiva, or individual soul of man. There are various discussions about the form and the size of this individual soul. According to some, it is very small, like an atom. According to others, it is not so small as that. According to others, it is very big, and so on. This Shiva is a part of that universal substance, and it is also eternal, without beginning. It is existing, and without end it will exist. It is passing through all these forms in order to manifest its real nature, which is purity. Every action that retards this manifestation is called an evil action. So, with thoughts, and every action and every thought that helps the jeev to expand, to manifest its real nature is good. One theory that is held in common in India by the crudest dualist as well as by the most advanced non dualist is that all the possibilities and powers of the soul are within it and do not come from any external source. They are in the soul in potential form, and the whole work of life is simply directed towards manifesting those potentialities. They have also the theory of reincarnation, which says that after the dissolution of this body, the Jeev will have another, and after that has been dissolved, it will again have another, and so on, either here or in some other worlds. But this world is given the preference as it is considered the best of all worlds for our purpose. Other worlds are conceived to of other worlds are conceived of as worlds where there is very little misery, but for that very reason, they argue, there is less chance of thinking of higher things there, as this world contains some happiness and good deals of misery. The jeev sometimes or gets awakened as it were and thinks of freeing itself, but just as very rich person in this world have the least chance of thinking of higher things, so the jeev in the heaven has a little chance of progress, for its condition is the same as that of the rich man, only more intensified. It has a very fine body which knows no disease and is under no necessity of eating or drinking, and all its desire are full. The jeev lives there, having enjoyment after enjoyment, and so forgets all about its real nature. Still, there are some higher worlds where, in spite of all enjoyments, its further evolution is possible. Some dualistic conceive of the goal as the highest heaven, where soul will live with God forever. They will have beautiful bodies and will know neither disease nor death, nor any other evil, and all these desires will be fulfilled. From time to time, some of them will come back to this earth and take another body to teach human beings the way of God, and the great teacher of the world has been such. They are already free and were living with God in the highest sphere, but their love and sympathy for the suffering of humanity was so great that they came and incarnated again to teach mankind the way to heaven. Of course, we know that the Advait holds that this cannot be the goal of or ideal. The bodilessness must be the ideal. The ideal cannot be infinite. Anything short of the infinite cannot be ideal, and there cannot be the infinite body. That would be impossible. And he has body comes from limitation. There cannot be infinite thought because thought comes from limitation. We have to go beyond the body, beyond the thoughts too, says the Advait. And we have also seen that according to Advait, this freedom is not to be attained, it is already ours. We only forget it and deny it. Perfection is not to be attained, it is already within us. Immorality and the bliss are not to be acquired, we possess them already. They have been our all the time. If you dare declare that you are free, free you are this moment. If you say you are bound, bound you will remain. This is what Advait boldly declares. It have told you the ideas of dualist. You can take whichever you like. The highest idea of the Vedant is very difficult to understand, and people are always quarreling about it. And the greatest difficulty is that when they get hold of certain ideas, they deny and fight other ideas. Take up what take up what they need. If you are desirous of clinging to this little individuality, to this limited manhold, remain in it. Have all these desires and be content. and pleased with them. If you experience a manhold has been very good and nice, retain it as long as you like, and you can do so. For you are markers of your own fortune. None can compile you to give up your manhood. You will be men as long as you like. None can prevent you. If you want to be angel, you will be angels. And that is the law. But there may be others who do not want to be angels even. What right have you to think that there is a horrible notion? You may be frightened to lose 100 pounds, but there may be others who would not even wink if they lose all money they had in the world. There have been such men, and still there are. Why do you dare to judge them according to their standard? You cling on to your limitation, and these little worldly ideas may be your highest ideal. You are welcome to do them. It will be to you as you wish, but there are others who have seen the truth and cannot rest in this limitation, who have done with these things and want to get beyond. The world with all its enjoyment is a mere puddle for them. The world with all this enjoyment is mere mud puddle for them. Why do you want to bind them down to your ideas? You must get rid of these tendencies once for all, to according a place to everyone. Accord a place to everyone. I once read a story about some ship that were caught in a cyclone in the South Sea Lands, and there was a picture of it in the Illustrated London News. All of them were wrecked except one English vessel, which weathered the storm. The picture showed the men who were going to be drowned standing on the decks and cheering the people who were sailing through the storm. Be brave and generous like that. Do not drag others down to where you are. Another foolish notion is that if we lose our little individuality, there will be no morality, no hope for humanity, as if everybody has been dying for humanity all the time. God bless you. If in every country there were 200 men and women really wanting to do good to humanity, the millions would come in 5 days. We know how we are dying for humanity. These are all tall talks, and nothing else. The history of the world shows that those who never thought of their little individuality were the greatest benefactors of the human race, and that the more people, that is, more men and women, think of themselves, the less are they able to do for others. One is unselfishness, and other is selfishness. Clinging on the little enjoyment and to desire the continuation and repetition of this state of thing is utter selfishness. It arises not from any desire for truth. Its genesis is not in kindness for other beings, but in the utter selfishness of the human heart, in the idea, I will have everything and do not care for anyone else. This is as it appears to me. I would like to see more moral men in the world like some of those grand old prophets and sages of the ancient time who would have given up 100 lives if they could by so doing benefit one little animal. Talk of morality and doing good to others. Silly talk of the present time. I would like to see moral men like Gautam Buddha who did not believe in personal God or personal soul, never asked about them, but was a perfect agnos agnostic, and yet was ready to lay down his life for anyone, and worked all his life for good of all, and thought only for of the good of all. Well, has it been said by his biography is describing his birth that he was born for a good of many as a blessing or to the many. He did not go to the forest to meditate for his own salvation. He felt that the world was burning and that he must find a way out. Why is there so much misery in the world? Was the only question that dominated his whole life. Do not think we are so moral as Buddha. More selfish a man, the more immortal he is, and so also with the race. That race which is bound down to itself has been the most cruel and the most wicked in the world. There has not been a religion that has clung to this dualism more than that founded by the Prophet of Arabia. And there has not been a religion which has shed so much blood and been so cruel to other men. In Quran, there is a doctrine that a man who does not believe this teaching should be killed. It is mercy to kill him. And the surest way to get to heaven, where there are beautiful hoyaris and all sort of sense enjoyment, is by killing these unbelievers. Think of the bloodshed there has been a consequence to such belief. In the religion of Christ, there was little of crudeness. There is very little difference between the pure religion of Christ and that of the Vedanta. You find there the idea of oneness, but the Christ also preached the dualistic ideas to the people in order to give them something tangible to take hold of, to lead them up to the highest idea. The same prophet who preached, Our Father which art in heaven, also preached, I and my Father are one. And the same prophet knew that through the Father in heaven lies the way to the I and my Father are one. There was only blessing and love in the religion of Christ, but as soon as crudeness crept in, it was degraded into something not much better than the religion of Prophet of Arabia. It was crudeness indeed. This fight for the little self, this clinging onto the I, not only in this life but also in the desire for its continuous even after death. This then declare to be unselfish. This the foundation of morality. Lord help us if this be the foundation of morality. The strangled enough men and women who ought to know better things, all morality will be destroyed if these little selves go and stand against at the idea that the morality can only stand upon their destruction. The watchword of all well-being, of all moral good is not I but thou. Who cares whether there is heaven or hell? Who cares if there is a soul or not? Who cares if there is unchangeable or not? Here is the world and it is full of misery. Go out into it as Buddha did and struggle to lessen it and die it, the attempt for it. Forget yourself. This is the first lesson to be learned. Whether you are a theist or atheist, whether you are an agnostic or Vedantist, whether Christian or Mohammedan, the one lesson obvious to all is the destruction of the little self and building up of real self. Two forces have always working side by side in the parallel line. The one say I, the other say not I. Their manifestation is not only in the man but in the animal, not only in the animal but in the smallest worm. The tigress that plugs her fangs into the warm blood of the human being would give up her own life to protect her little ones. The most depraved man who thinks nothing of taking the lives of his brother men will perhaps sacrifice himself without any hesitation to save the starving wife and children. Thus, throughout creation, these two forces are working side by side. Where you find one, you find the other too. The one selfishness and other unselfishness. The one is acquisition and other one is renunciation. The one takes, the other gives. From the lowest to the highest, the whole universe is a playground of these two forces. It does not require any demonstration, it is obvious to all. What right has any section of the community to base the whole work and evolution of the universe upon one of these two factors alone? Upon competition and struggle. What right has it to base the whole working of the universe upon passion and fight, upon competition and struggle? That this exists, we do not deny, but what right has anyone to deny the working of the other force? Can any man deny that love, this not I, this renunciation, this renunciation is the only positive power in the universe. That other is only the misguided employment of the power of love. The power of love brings competition. The real genesis of competition is in love. The real genesis of evil is in unselfishness. The creator of evil is good, and the end is also good. It is only this misdirection of the power of good. A man who murders another is perhaps moved to do so by the love of his own child. His love for has become limited to that one little baby, to the exclusion of the millions of the other human beings in the universe. At limited or unlimited, it is the same love. Thus, the motive power of the whole universe, in whatever way it manifests itself, is that one wonderful thing: unselfishness, renunciation, love, the only living force in existence. Therefore, the Vedantis insist upon that oneness. We insist upon this explanation because we cannot admit two causation of the universe. If we simply hold that by limitation the same beautiful, wonderful love appears to be evil and vile, we find the whole universe expanded by the one force of love. If not, two causes of the universe have to be taken for granted: one good and other evil, one love and other hatred. Which is more logical? Certainly, the one force here. Let us now pass on to things which do not possibly belong to dualism. I cannot stay along with dualists, I am afraid. My idea is to show that the highest idea of morality and unselfishness goes hand in hand with the highest metaphysical conception, and that you need not lower your conception to get ethic and morality. But on the other hand, to reach a real basic of morality and ethic, you must have the highest philosophical and scientific conception. Human knowledge is not antagonistic to human well-beings. On the contrary, it is knowledge alone that will save us in every department of life. In knowledge is worship. The more we know, the better for us. The Vedantis say the cause of all that is apparently evil is the limitation of the unlimited. The love which gets limited into the little channels and seems to be evil, eventually limited into the little channels and seems to be evil eventually, comes out of comes out at the other end and manifests itself as God. The Vedanta also says that the cause of all this apparent evil is in ourselves. Do not blame any supernatural being, neither be hopeless or despondent, nor think we are in a place from which we can never escape unless someone comes and lends us a helping hand. That cannot be, says the Vedanta. We are like silkworms. We have or we may the thread out of our own substance and spin the cocoon, and in course of time are imprisoned inside. But this is not forever. In that cocoon, we shall develop spiritual realization and, like the butterfly, come out free. This network of karma worn around, we have worn around ourselves, and in our ignorance, we feel as if we are bound and weep and wail for help. But help does not come from without come does not come from without. It comes from within ourselves. Cry to all the gods in the universe. I cried for years, and in the end, I found that I was helped. But help came from within, and I had to undo what I had done by mistake. That is the only way. I had to cut the net which I had thrown round myself, and the power to do this is within. Of this, all certain that not one aspiration well guided or ill guided in my life has been in vain, but that I am the resultant of all my past, both good and evil. I have committed many mistakes in my life, but mark you, I am sure that without every one of those mistakes, I should not be what I am today, and so I am quite satisfied to have made them. I do not mean that you are to go home and willingly commit mistake. Do not misunderstand me in that way, but do not mock because of the mistakes you have committed. But know that in the end, all will come out straight, and it cannot be otherwise because goodness is our nature, purity is our nature. That nature can never be destroyed. Our essential nature is always remain always remains the same. What we are to understand in this, that we that what we call mistakes or evils, we commit because we are weak, and we are weak because we are ignorant. I prefer to call them mistakes. The word sin, although originally a very good word, has got a certain flavor about it that frightens me. Who makes us ignorant? We ourselves. We put our hands over our eyes and weep that it is darkness. Take the hands away and there is light. The light exists always for us, the self effulgent nature of the human soul. Do not, do you not hear what your modern scientific men say? What is the cause of evolution? Desire. The animal want to do something but does not find the environment favorable and therefore develops a new body. Who develops it? The animal itself it will. You have developed from the lowest amoeba. Continue to exercise your will and it will take you to the highest hill. The will is almighty. If it is almighty, you may say, why cannot I do everything? But you are thinking only of your little self. Look back on yourself from the state of the amoeba to the human being. Who made all that? Your own will. Can you deny that it is almighty? That which has made you come up so high can make you so higher still. What you want is character, strengthening of the will. If I teach you, therefore, that your nature is evil, that you should go home and sit in the sackcloth and ashes and whip your lives out because you look certain false step, because you took certain false step, it will not help you, but will weaken you all the more, and I shall be showing you the road to more evil than good. If this room is full of darkness for thousands of years, and you come in and begin to weep and wail, oh, the darkness will the darkness vanish? Strike a match, and light comes in a moment. What good will it do you to think all your lives, oh, I have done evil, I have bring many mistakes, I have made many mistakes. It requires no ghost to tell us that. Bring in the light and the evil goes in a moment. Build up your character and manifest your real nature. Effulgent and the resplendent, the effulgent, resplendent, ever pure, and call it up in everyone that you see. I wish that every one of us had come to such a state that even the willest of human beings we could see the real self within, and instead of condemning them, say, rise thou effulgent one, rise thou who art always pure, rise thou birthless and deathless, rise mighty. The manifest thy true nature. This little manifestation do not befit thy. This is the highest prayer that the Advaitis teach. This is the one prayer to remember our truth nature, the God who is always within us, thinking of always as infinite, almighty, ever good, ever beneficial, selfless, befrit of all limitations, and because that nature is selfless, it is strong and fearless, for only to selfish comes fear. He who is nothing to desire for himself, whom does not fear, and what can frighten him? What fear has that for him? What fear has evil for him? So, if we are Vedantis, we must think from the moment that our old self is dead and gone, the old Mr. and Miss or Mrs. So and so are gone. They were mere superstitions, and what remain is the ever pure, the ever strong, the almighty, the all knowing. That alone remains for us, and then all fear vanishes from us. Who can injure us? The omnipresent. All weakness has vanished from us, and our only work is to arouse this knowledge in our fellow beings. We see that they too have some or same pure self, only they do not know it. We must teach them, we must help them to rose up their infinite nature. This is what I feel to be absolute necessary all over the world. This doctrine are old, older than many mountain possible, all true in eternity. True is nobody's property, no race, no individual can lay any exclusive claim to it. Truth is the nature of all soul. Who can lay any special claim to it? But it has to be made practical, to be made simple so that it may penetrate every pore of the human society and become the property of the highest intellectual and the commonest mind of men and women, children, all the same time. All this ratiocination of logic, all these bundles of metaphysics, all these theologicals and ceremonials may have been good in their own times, but let us try to make things simpler and bring about the golden days when every man will be worshipper and reality in every man will be the object of worship.